It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Tuesday, Gary, what do you know?
Not much, but I try.
Oh.
Sitting here, I got my coffee, so I'm all set for the show today.
All right, good. Yeah.
It's cold, though.
Yeah, cold coffee.
It's cold coffee.
All right,
Yes.
super coffee is what it looks like.
Yes, it's a super coffee. Very,
right.
very low carbs.
Yeah, high caffeine, low carb.
Yes. Remember, you ever have Jolt Cola?
Yeah, I don't think it comes anywhere close to what they have on the market today. Jolt Cola had three sodas worth?
It was like double the sugar, double the caffeine.
Yeah, and so it was like, if I remember correctly, for two sodas, you're talking about roughly 120 milligrams of caffeine. Well, that's nothing compared to the energy drinks today. Jolt, what are you, going to bed?
All right, before we go any further on the show, occasionally you and I will say things are so insane from the left, we ask what type of drug are they doing, right?
Uh-huh.
All right?
All right.
And sometimes we've actually gone into the possibility of what drugs they might actually be doing. We've gone down the list.
Yeah.
But this one, Charles Cook National Review, what is Biden thinking on immigration?
Yeah.
If the president loses his re-election bid in November, he'll have no one to blame but himself, excluding from consideration any conspiratorial explanations for the proposition. The news that President Biden intends imminently to announce one of the largest immigration relief programs in recent history must have left even the most weather-beaten of political observers scratching their heads in astonishment. This, one need not be reminded, is an election year. Immigration remains one of Biden's biggest weak spots, and he's running against Donald Trump, the country's leading immigration hawk. Might we conclude from this dim-witted decision that the White House policy team has taken a liking to magic mushrooms?
Told you. We told you.
We were first on this story.
That was not Hunter's cocaine.
Who's making... You want to know whose cocaine is this? Find out who's actually making the policy inside the White House on immigration.
I think it's a pretty good roundtable, actually. I don't think it's one person. I think it's a lot of people. I think that party has been going on since January 20th of 2021 because they're all delusional.
In its report on the topic, CBS nonchalantly observed that the plan would involve removing an obstacle in U.S. law, which, if his prior lawlessness is any guide, is almost certainly a euphemism for usurping the authority of Congress.
Yeah.
And to what end? To make himself even more unpopular than he already is?
Right.
So pronounced has been President Biden's abdication of responsibility at the southern border that solid majorities of Americans have come to support mass deportations in response. Right. That's never happened in American history.
It's never happened.
Right. Last week, CBS found that 62% of registered voters favor a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally. Now, that support is broad-based. Independent voters back the deal 60-40. Hispanics 53-47. Men 66-34. Women 58-42. Without college degrees 74-26. Voters with college degrees 58-42. The cause of this shift ought to be obvious. The citizens have watched in anger as President Biden first opened the border and then, having been roundly criticized for doing so, steadfastly refused to change change course. For almost his entire tenure, Biden's approval rating on immigration has been a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
To address this, he has denied, lied, played politics while doing nothing of consequence to fix the problem. We know the lie is the border is secure.
Right.
Perhaps if the possibility of mass deportation were to be raised in another context, the public would strike a more permissive note. But right now, in these circumstances, voters want something done, and they want it done fast.
Yeah,
Wow.
Pretty simple. You know, it's with the college loans, Supreme Court says you can't do this. With the border, the American people are screaming, deport them. Nope. Open the border wider and now create more exemptions for people who are here illegally.
When in the next few weeks Biden formally announces his proposal, he will undoubtedly stress that the illegal immigrants to which it applies are the sympathetic ones.
Yeah.
And when he does, nobody listening will much care. For Biden now faces the same problem with immigration as he does with inflation. Having been blamed for the disease, he cannot expect to be invited to provide the remedy. Ooh, 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 ooh. Who has said that in a different way that we said the Republicans should be using this on a consistent basis? And they haven't yet. They've started on it on a few topics, but on every topic, they should say, because that's what he's saying right here, having been blamed for the disease, he cannot expect to be invited to provide the remedy. Since he caused it and it's what he wants, it's impossible for him to provide the solution. And that's what the Republicans should be promoting every single day right now.
Well, it's the opposite of the movie Cobra. You're the disease, I'm the cure. I cause the disease, and I'm not going to have a cure.
I cause the disease, and I don't have a cure. I don't shop here anyway.
You sound like you have a cold. You feeling okay? Hey, yo, you'll need a lozenge.
I don't think I've ever watched the entire movie. That's sort of like So I Married an Axe Murderer. I get through the first, half hour.
When I owned a video store, it was by far the most popular. I had to order
Cobra?
extra cop. Yeah, this is back on VHS.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was never in store. It was always, somebody always had it. And almost the moment it was returned, certainly within a couple of hours of any of the copies being returned, boom, right back out there. And it wasn't, I have to go back. I don't remember how new the movie was. It wasn't brand new, I don't think, at any point when I owned the store. I got to go back and do the timeline. But, man, it was, yeah. And I don't think I ever watched it all the way through.
And when he comes back from the supermarket, having killed the guy who's in there basically killing people, he comes back to park. Remember, there's the gang members in the car in front of him. He just hits their car so he can fit in the parking space. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he goes home, he gets the pizza box out of the oven, slices it with his knife.
Yeah.
That he, basically the knife he carries with him.
Yeah.
And then starts cleaning his gun. And I'm like, it's like this guy. It's like, okay, this cop has a one-track mind.
Yeah.
He's the one that's called in when nobody else can get it done. You don't see a lot of those cop movies today like that, do you?
You don't. I was going to say we actually need some more of those movies. That would be great.
Yeah, you're not going to get them. You're the disease. Where's Clint Eastwood? No.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was just, You just read this and you're just like, yeah, they don't care. I mean, they're doubling down. The mayor, by the way, we're all for it. Chicago, we think Chicago. What's your number for reparations now? Remember, now this would be the city of Chicago because Brandon Johnson came out and said $500,000 to have a task force. What are you thinking? $1 million each? $2 million?
Right.
Bankrupt the city. And it's, as we have stated, people believe that, we're against reparations. No, because it's Democrat cities. Democrats are the ones that have used identity politics for the longest time. There is no greater institution of promoting slavery and Jim Crow laws over the history of this country than the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party and the Democrat cities should pay. If they feel, because they're coming up with it and they're promoting it because they feel guilty.
Yep.
They've practiced identity politics. They judge people by groups and not individuals. Well, darn it, it's time for Democrats to start paying reparations, and a lot of them.
Yep.
To soothe their own guilt, if anything else.
Right.
Because apparently they feel really, really guilty of their racism that they practice each and every day through identity politics. Please tell me where I'm wrong here.
Mayor Brandon, you need to call the governor of California and ask how it worked out for them.
Right. I remember radio stations used to do high-low. Remember? No, you're too high. You're too low. They'd have a figure in there somewhere. Let's make it higher. Come on, city of Chicago, you can beat San Francisco. Was it San Francisco came up with $200 million apiece?
Yeah, at one point, someone was suggesting $200 million each.
You can go higher. Come on, Chicago. Look,
Right.
just don't go a little bankrupt. Go big if you're going to go bankrupt.
And eventually, they could, the way it's going in San Francisco, they could give everybody a home, too, because so many homes will be empty. You get this nice-looking abandoned home.
What a zoo of a day it was yesterday, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the rumor of this coming down, the story of this coming down started to really heat up over the weekend. And then, of course, yesterday and just a few hours ago, heating up once again of this exemption that Biden wants to give on spouses that are here illegally. We've heard over the years some people, I don't know, a number of people that have said, look, I've been trying, over and over and over again. My wife is here. She can't get citizenship. She can't. And ultimately, they want citizenship. Well, we're talking legal status here, but what's next? And for all the people who went through years and years, the legal process, following the law, and they look at this and say, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The swipe of a pen. People getting the benefit are going to go, oh, that's great. The American people, not so much. The American people are looking at this right now, and over again, Biden plays from a playbook that is long gone. Because of the breaking of the border caused by himself, he's just clueless. He is absolutely, there is zero self-awareness. He's absolutely out of his mind here if he thinks for a moment this is going to play out positive politically. But it's the same idea, though. You create victims where, again, any place that you can. There may have been a time where a move like this politically could have worked for a Democrat. But in recent years, no. The polls have been working against this more and more. And right now, this is the worst time for anybody to float this idea. And he's playing out of an old playbook. And I guess that's what they're going to continue to do for the rest of the year anyway.
Well, we've got a great cheap fake show today.
We do.
So we hope everybody sticks around. We're going to have some fun here. Cheap fake. I just love the cheap fake.
Yeah, we are. If we sound busy, by the way, during the breaks, we're helping Mark Cuban plan a participation parade.
I just saw that a couple minutes ago. Yeah,
what?
They got beat bad.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I woke up and saw the headline. Yeah. 18-point deficit. Ouch. That's bad.
Yeah, congrats to the Celtics.
Yeah, congrats. It looked at first like it was going to be a sweep, but they got it done in 5 games.
Well, I mean, for watching not 1 minute of the series, it was a great matchup.
Oh, I thought it was a great series. I didn't see any of it. If it weren't for WFAA and the app sending me and others now tonight sending the breaking news from because it's over on the national level. I wonder what the audience was.
Well, the thing is now Mark Cuban can now dedicate himself full time to promoting how Biden is just incredibly dynamic and exciting and full of energy, as he tried to do on social media 2 days ago, which sort of backfired on him. Like, what are you, out of your mind?
Yeah.
What's going on with you? And that's when you see the whole cheap fake thing. Nobody's going to buy it. I mean, it's fascinating to watch because it's the ultimate in gaslighting from the administration. Now, these are all cheap fakes. Everything is edited, everything. Well, you notice that, you know how you know that the right knows they're right on this? They're not backing off from the story. They're going right to Karine Jean-Pierre and promoting it. Going, let's go through the videos. Let's do this. It's like, you can't win this with Biden.
Well, if you're saying, and if that's going to be your stance, you're just making it worse.
Yeah.
Because you're bringing in people that may not have been interested in watching it as closely as others that are going to go, oh, is it a cheap fake or not?
Right.
Oh, it's not a cheap fake.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. You may already know that retread tires offer a cost savings, but what else do you know about them? You may be surprised to learn that more than 80% of all aircraft tires in the U.S. today are retreads. From fighter jets to school buses, retreads move some of the most important cargo across many industries. They can also help you move your load, too.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, a story that would have been probably the top story of the day if MTG had said it or Boebert had said it. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. The Karine Jean-Pierre and the cheap fakes, we'll have to get to that. They can't win that.
No, they can't.
They've already lost that.
Yeah, they can't.
They can't win it. We'll get to what she said yesterday, and also the reporter that asked yesterday, how is it not a threat to democracy when you have a prosecutor of the same political party as the president waiting 7 years to prosecute in an election year a former president who is now running?
Yeah.
The best thing is, she said you'd have to look at the timeline of the Department of Justice, and she had to backtrack on that later on, because it's Bragg, not the Department of Justice. So
right.
she just, when she said that, told everybody, the Department of Justice timeline for Bragg to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, Department of Justice.
I was like,
tell us more.
No, I didn't mean Department of Justice. I meant Bragg. They'd come back
sure
afterwards.
You did. Sure you did.
We have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Did you see the Iowa poll? Des Moines Register?
No, I haven't. Well, I haven't seen the breakdown of it. I saw the headlines on it. I didn't see the entire breakdown on it, though.
Yeah, I didn't see the entire breakdown. I just saw that. And this, it would be, I think it was head-to-head, Trump 50, Biden 32. 18 points.
Wow.
Let me just see here. Let me just see if it was the head-to-head. No, it's everybody. Trump 50, Biden 32, Kennedy 9, Oliver 2. So 18 points in Iowa. Remember, Obama won Iowa.
Yeah.
When you see 8, now I will tell you this though, the one thing, if you were to look at the major issues, and this is the, we talk about the disconnect that exists out there in the polls and in the voters. If you look at the actual polling on the issues, for example, if you look at the polling on the border, if you look at the polling on inflation, if you look at the polling on crime, you take the things that Americans are actually concerned about, and it should be across the country if you're talking the issues only and not the personalities involved.
Right.
It should be about 18 points. That's where it actually should be. When you look at the polls of where people stand on the issue, think about this, when you have almost 2/3 of Americans that believe there ought to be mass deportations, and Biden coming out tomorrow and saying, okay, we're going to offer amnesty to these people. Do you know how angry Americans have to be when you're over 60% and every single demographic is for the mass deportation of illegal immigrants in this country?
Yeah.
Do you know how angry, do you know how hopeless people feel if you have those kind of numbers? It's unbelievable.
It's why when I saw the headline, because you and I are quick to say, okay, is it an outlier? If there's something, I think you said it yesterday. There should be a massive, massive lead. Maybe not by all of the GOPers in all of the races, but with Trump. And you see this and say, okay, here you have it. And I've looked at Iowa because it's interesting. I go there every year, going to go there in roughly a month or so. I'll be there at the Walcott Truckers Jamboree at the Iowa 80. And so over the years of going to that, I've become friends with a number of people in Iowa. And you've been watching Iowa politics. I mean, it's the starting place of every primary season and all of that. And so covering this for years, going there, talking to people, it can be. It isn't always. It can be one of those barometers. This isn't going to happen in every state, but it's a barometer quite often with independents. The people whose hearts and minds can be changed and may go a totally different way at election time. Now, Trump won
8.2%.
Yeah.
In 2020.
In 2020. And now this poll, and we'll see, if it holds, but this poll, my gosh, 50-32. That's with Kennedy at 9.
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty wild. Likely voter poll. Margin of error 3.9. Not that it matters on 18 points. But wow, it is.
And Trump won by 9.4% over Hillary in 2016.
Yeah. But this is indicative of more independence maybe in Iowa
And
going his way.
Think about it.
Going Trump's way.
Now, in 2012, is going to second term.
Mm-hmm.
Obama won Iowa by 5.81 points.
Wow.
And so you look at, where the public is going from 15 years ago till now based on the things that, what liberalism has done. And you look at it, you look at Iowa and you say, okay, that is a state that could go either way.
Right.
But as liberalism,
which was my point
but
earlier,
as liberalism has gone wacko, and the Democratic Party has gone wacko, that indicator of that number of 18 points is closer. That if people, and look, I'm not saying it's not an outlier. I'm not saying, again, we don't take one poll and look at it, but the momentum, if you take that poll with all the other polls, is really incredible. It might only be 12 points.
Yeah.
But still, that's incredible, for the situation that we're in right now. And it shows you how bad liberalism is. Mm-hmm. And it shows you how concerned people are. I can go further than just the question on illegal immigration, but I think you cannot discount the importance of the fact that you're over 60% in every demographic says we should have mass deportation.
Yeah.
Of illegal immigrants. That's never happened. To this number, never happened before. Never. You might have had 30% maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
To get to that point, you have to understand the frustration of the American people. Mm-hmm. That's on illegal immigration. And still, though, even though it's on your nightly news, most people aren't directly affected by it as they are inflation. And inflation's hitting them every single day. And so everything that this administration says, nobody's paying attention to anymore. That's the problem that they have. And the things that they decide to fight, with the mass amnesty he's going to announce later on today.
Mm-hmm.
And then the inflation, they keep cheering there's this great victory, and people don't see it. Because I think people expect that prices are going to go back down again, and they're not going to go back down.
Well, and there used to be a thing with the border when we were talking more in the abstract and things weren't playing out the way they are now, and with a wide open border that this administration, this president created. There used to be in the abstract a great deal more compassion politically if you were to announce, again, if you were to announce a deal like this years ago. Because, again, talking in the abstract, you'd have to go visit a border state or a border town to get the full picture. Now you don't. New York City, Chicago, L.A.
And we had stated early on when people called and said, yeah, but the media's not going to cover it. We said, yeah, local media is.
Yeah, they will.
That's one thing I'm very familiar with is local media and local television stations and how they operate.
Yeah.
And they cover things like this.
Yep.
They cover things because you can't help not doing it.
Right.
Because people are calling your station and you're looking, okay, we're a local station. Have we done enough cat videos this week?
Right.
What do we got out here?
Right.
50% of the hotel rooms as we get ready for summer for the tour for tourism have now skyrocketed in price because we have migrants living in the hotels.
Right.
One of the things, and I mentioned this guy, and I don't know him. All I know is his videos, and you've watched him. But I think you've watched him before too. That Cash Jordan in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I went there yesterday and said, I wonder if he's doing any more real estate videos, because I would watch it. One of the things I love doing is I have my life, and I know there's limitations in what I can do in my life because I have this job. So I mean, there's limitations for everything that you gain. There's something that you give up. You say, okay, this is the most valuable thing that I wish to do in my life. This is where I have the most fun doing this. So you don't do other things. So I'm amazed by people who live a completely different life than I am. And not that I'm jealous in any way. I'm just fascinated by people who do different things.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by people that live in apartments in New York City. I'm just like, how do you do it? And I got a couple of people I know that live in New York City and work in New York City and survive in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like in the media and arts and entertainment. And it's like, how do they do it? And so this about 3 years ago, I started watching this guy by the name of Cash Jordan. And he became so popular that I think he started getting invited because he gets so many views on YouTube. And he'd sit there and he'd go and look at a $3 million apartment or condo, 60 stories in the air. And the next day, here's what you can get for $2,000. And basically a walk-in closet apartment where you share the bathroom with other people.
Right.
And it's fascinating to see it. And he talked to, I'll never forget, the one woman, she lived in a closet. Her apartment was not as big, and we have a very small studio, for studio size for, shows, radio shows, very small. Her apartment was half of what our studio is right here.
If there weren't so many jackets and shoes in this room, then we would have more room.
You just have too many shoes, Eric. Too many shoes. It's one of my biggest complaints. He has too many shoes.
There's boxes up here on shelves and everything.
And so I'm fascinated, and he does just great editing. He goes through and he goes, here are the places around here. You can go to this store, go to this store, go to this. The bank's right around the corner. Here's where the subway is. And I'm just fascinated. Since I spent a couple of days in 2002 in Manhattan, and it was for the anniversary of 9/11, I was there for a week and just, walked the streets and everything else. And because I was a Seinfeld fan, I actually found a black and white cookie.
Oh.
But racial harmony. I was just fascinated by, people who live in these skyscrapers and, they're dining in alleyways. There's tables and alleyways and things and they're jogging. I'm like, wow, how do they do that? That's just not my lifestyle, but I'm fascinated by people who do it. Well, I can't find where he's had in the last 3 or 4 or 5 months any apartment. Everything he's doing now, this Cash Jordan, everything is about the disaster that New York is becoming. And he's out there, and he doesn't do it like you don't sense it's in a partisan way at all. It's in a way where he's hitting all the talking points that are partisan talking points, but I think it's a frustration of seeing how much the rents are going up and how impossible it is for anybody with a normal job to live in New York City. And so he's going through, his videos are wonderful because he goes through, he did the whole thing on electric, charging stations. He's like, the only where you see him is near government places.
Right.
But it's just fascinating watching how, he went from somebody, on New York and the real estate and what's available and if you want to move and everything else to completely every single video now is on the downfall of New York.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's not happy about it.
Right.
He's a pretty optimistic guy, but I think that's telling as to what's going on in this country right now. And so when you see what's happening in Iowa, if those numbers are even near correct, it does mirror where people stand on the issues. And one thing that people don't talk about is as we get close to the election, the intensity gets greater. All right, who am I going to vote for? Well, I'll still vote for Biden. And, you get hit another, 4 or 5 months now of still inflation hitting you and all this news, which is insane. You saw the change with Hillary back in 2016 in October.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, the cheap fakes and where is it going, and will Biden make it to November? I saw Greta Van Susteren the other day say, mark my words, he's going to drop out, and it's going to be Hillary.
Okay. I've got some thoughts on that. You and I were just talking about it during the break. And so we'll talk about it after, because there is something, and my wife and I was talking to my wife about it. We were on the road this past weekend, and so we had a lot of time to talk and share some things and my thoughts. So I'll share my thoughts on it coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you ready?
What you got?
I love this loaded question. I don't know who the reporter is asking it, but it's definitely loaded, saying, with the edited videos of the president and all this, well, the ones I've seen have not been edited.
No.
Of the president showing his, the physical problems that he has. But here's a question yesterday to Karine Jean-Pierre.
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or mentally confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more often.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president for thanking troops. For thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here.
All right, now I don't know specifically what videos she is referencing to. I'm talking about the ones that we have viewed in their entirety, and even if you have some on the right editing or videos of Biden, it doesn't matter. The unedited videos are bad enough. Yeah. Now we have stated, though, this is why you always wish to be right. You never want to be wrong. When you're a conservative.
Right. Exactly.
You always want to be right, and you don't have to fake anything for this. Now, the problem is when you go on social media, for example, with the president when the parachute folks are coming down.
Right.
At that point.
Right.
The first video didn't show what he was looking at.
Right.
But the second video didn't make any difference.
No, it didn't.
It's the fact that he was walking away and had to be guided back because everybody else was there. All the other leaders of the G7 were there, and they saw the people coming down. But it was Biden, as we had stated. It's almost like he saw something flashy and had to turn. The thing that I look at more than those videos is when he speaks. He cannot speak in a complete sentence.
Yeah.
And he's constantly mispronouncing not just words, but sentences. He slurs through sentences. And I look as an example, my 98-year-old father.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this was great yesterday. I have to bring this up.
What do you got?
And I don't mean to bring up bodily functions, but I have to.
Okay, here we go.
I talking to my dad the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I say to him, I'll say, all right, let's get moving here. Let's be productive. Today we're going to have great resolve. And he goes, Johnson said that. President Johnson.
Right.
So I told my father, I said, hey, Dad, you remember the joke? What did Johnson say when he went to the bathroom? My father says, oh, wait a minute, I know this one. He goes, Goldwater. And I said, I got to tell that on the air. I don't mean to bring up bodily functions, but when your 98-year-old father remembers that joke that you remember as a child, as a kid, the kid's going around, what does Johnson say when he goes to the bathroom? Goldwater. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah,
that was just
great.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, that was just.
I love it.
But when you look at the totality of the evidence, obviously the president has massive cognitive problems.
Yeah.
And we all know it. And if we have said to anybody on the right, if you don't show everything in the full context, you don't need, we've said this, and remember, there are just individuals that represent the right that aren't a part of the Republican Party.
Right, sure.
That will put out stuff, and you're like, you got to cover the whole thing. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We've always stated conservatives and Republicans don't have to lie about anything.
No.
You don't have to edit anything. The things I've seen are not edited. My conclusions have come from things that aren't edited, except for the fact that everything is edited, because you're not going to, if the president makes a speech over a period of 2 to 3 minutes, you don't have to watch the entire speech to understand that the context of it is he's having problems.
Well, and that's the problem here, is that she's calling these, cheap fakes, which sounds a lot like deep fakes, but it's not. What they're saying is what she's trying to imply here is that people saying with the situation at Normandy, okay, that's not what was going on there. And because other people thought, well, is he actually losing bowel control right there on stage? Or was he reaching for a chair that he thought was behind him? And I think I was pretty clear the night we came in. I said, to me, it looks like, because you can see chairs that are further behind him, it looks like he thought he was closer to that chair. It doesn't make the situation look any better. Now, again,
right,
it's, I'm not going to make the case that, well, I'm saying it looks like to me that he was going to pull a chair up and he was reaching behind his leg. It doesn't matter what it looks like to Eric. It doesn't matter what it looks like to the New York Post. Because they're going to tell you also that the freeze the other night on stage wasn't a freeze. He was just pausing. No, that was a freeze, and I've seen it before. I've seen it happen in a person firsthand multiple times. And I know it when I see it. And Obama knew it and had to pull his arm. When he pulled his arm, he pulled it kind of in almost like an upward direction. You're kind of breaking the moment. Because he did freeze. There were some people yesterday, asking, well, was that a freeze or did he just pause? Was that a freeze or did... No, he froze. And you won't convince me otherwise. And then the way that he very slowly walked off stage with Obama, you can't change that. That's not a cheap fake, deep fake, or anything in between. That's real. We all know it. Let's quit being stupid. So I told you off the air a little while ago, had a conversation with my wife over the weekend when we were traveling, and I just said, it's the first time that I've actually thought there's a decent chance he's not going to make it to the election, that he'll have to drop out, that those around him won't be able to weekend at Bernie's this whole thing until November 5th. Because managing the care of a person, and it's not just any person, it's the President of the United States, is hard when they're not in public office, when no one knows who they are, but it's difficult. And then trying to do this in public and pretend like nothing's wrong? Because here's the question. Do I believe it's going to get any better before November 5th? No. And are the chances that it is drastically, because you can look at the observations over the last few months, you can go back to the beginning of this year. His decline is measurable. And when you look at that, then the next question is, do I believe there's going to be further decline and that this rate of decline is going to continue until November 5th? And the answer is yes.
Because it always does.
There's no way that it gets better. And, you have these moments. And for all of us who have become caretakers, you see it. The lucid moments, they're beautiful. They're also tricky. They can trick your mind into believing maybe it's not so bad. And then there's an incident where it demonstrates very clearly that they're getting much worse. And we've been through that repeatedly with multiple family members. And we're still going through it right now. It's also getting much tougher to not feel sorry for him. Because I don't want anybody to suffer in a situation like this. And trust me, if someone has dementia, they're suffering because it's not just their mind. It affects their movement. It affects their life. It affects them physically. And they are suffering. There's no way around that. And if that's what's going on here with the current president, a sitting president of the United States, it needs to be resolved for his sake and for the safety of this nation. There are no two ways around that. Trying to play this like the liberals play everything right now. That man is a woman, and how dare you say it's not? He's fine when we know he's not. Has to end. We can't go on doing this anymore. If he's suffering, he deserves the care. And this nation deserves the truth about his status officially. There needs to be a statement by the White House, and we need to move on as a nation. However their party is going to resolve it, whether it's going to be Hillary, whether it's going to be Gavin Newsom, or both, whatever it needs to be, that isn't even my concern anymore. My concern now is the fact that he's still the guy making decisions. I see a lot of the things, well, it was clear over the weekend. You can see Obama leading him off stage, and I believe Obama's been behind the scenes making decisions. I wouldn't doubt that he's definitely consulting, but who was the man that's in power? The president still has the power legally, and he does not have the ability to have that power. There is no way around this. It is not going to be resolved. He's not going to get better. The decline is going to continue, and it's only a matter of time before people like Karine Jean-Pierre and Joe Scarborough have to eat dirt on this and admit, yeah, they were right all along. And they, being the millions of us who have become caretakers in situations just like this. It's not pleasant. And as a nation, it isn't safe.
No, it's to think that he, that this is what, and maybe it's growing up in the Cold War, but you've got 15 minutes to make that decision once the nukes go off. And when you grew up in the Cold War, that's something that that decision has to be made.
Yep.
Like that. And
right.
Does anybody trust this president to make the right decision on that?
Putin's going to North Korea.
Yeah.
And Putin's also talking with Cuba. Putin knows this. Is Putin a troll? All day long. But is he also crazy? All day long.
We will get the New York Post, by the way, shot back at the Karine Jean-Pierre saying, we didn't do anything. You're the one lying, and then points out where she lies.
Exactly.
We'll get to that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So the New York Post responded to Karine Jean-Pierre. White House makes wrong claims while accusing Post of misreporting videos of Biden freezing up and wandering off. The White House went on the offensive against the New York Post Monday, calling out President Biden's frailty in a series of recent videos, only to make false statements of their own in the process. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre accused the Post of spreading misinformation about videos of the 81-year-old president at recent events with G7 world leaders and former President Barack Obama. Those events included a Thursday video of Biden being corralled by the Italian prime minister after a skydiving demonstration, and former President Barack Obama escorting his former VP off the stage at a glitzy Hollywood fundraiser on Saturday night. Jean-Pierre called the clips cheap fakes, meaning to claim that they were altered by humans through techniques such as zooming and leaving out context, but also incorrectly called them deep fakes, referring to AI-created footage with altered subjects and audio. I think you have called this cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fake videos. They are done in bad faith, the secretary said, and some of your news organizations have been very clear and stressed out that these right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because fact-checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation and disinformation. Jean-Pierre then applauded the Washington Examiner for supporting her claims, so the publication merely quoted the British Prime Minister trying to explain Biden's actions. The article cited by the press secretary included quotes from the UK leader acknowledging the president had not gone where he was supposed to go when he had to be pulled back to the group with his fellow leaders by the Italian Prime Minister. He just went over to kind of talk to all of them individually. And the prime minister was saying, don't worry, they're coming to us, so come back here, to the president.
Mm-hmm.
They were meant to line up so they could come and shake all the hands. And so let me just see what else they have here. It tells you everything to know about how desperate Republicans really are. Following the briefing, Jean-Pierre admitted to the New York Post she didn't mean to use the term deep fakes. These are fakes, cheap fakes, she said in reference to her incorrect use of the term.
Exactly my point. Make it sound like deep fakes, that it was a digital fake completely. Cheap fakes. That's their new term.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose. Just talking about, and really it started, I say about 10 days ago, and I really give credit, if that's what you want to call it, to Morning Joe. He's the first one that came out completely and totally indignant and furious because Biden is better than any. He understands the issues, is more coherent, is just better than any Republican speaker he's ever dealt with. Yeah. And it's like, okay, now the gaslighting is starting a big time on it. And you've seen it continue. And then the videos that came out, the White House talking about cheap fakes and deep fakes and all of that. But again, if you watch the unedited part of it, it doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't change the concern. And reading Piers Morgan here, the Obama, and by the way, he's not a Trump fan. The Obama-Biden arm grab wasn't just a senior moment. It was a moment everyone realized the president's not fit for office. And what you're getting from liberals liberals, and he's a liberal, in many ways. I think he's not as liberal as the wackos are going, but Piers Morgan has been liberal for a consistent period of time, going after Republicans and not Democrats until recently. But he goes, they were only 10 words, but wow, did they spark a reaction. I watched the viral clip of Barack Obama taking a frozen Joe Biden by the arm and leading him off stage at the star-studded L.A. fundraiser and posted on X what I suspect everyone who watched it was thinking. So embarrassing. The Democrats can't let this go on. Surely, within few hours, a staggering 7.5 million people had viewed my post, and many thousands of those had liked, reposted, or commented on it, as I thought the vast majority shared my honestly held opinion that President Biden is no longer fit to hold the highest office in America. I didn't mean that he's too incompetent for the job, although many would say he is. No, I mean he's too physically and mentally unfit to function at the extremely high level required to be the leader of not just the United States, but also the free world. When the last Democrat to occupy the White House has to literally grab the current one because he notices he's had yet another senior moment and appears to be paralyzed like a statue on stage, it has to be the wake-up call to everyone in the party must urgently heed before it's too late, doesn't it? We're only 5 months away from the 2024 general election, but what is now painfully obvious is that Joe Biden's already cooked as the candidate. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that he can possibly get through another 4-year term of the presidency, and everybody knows it.
At some point, it will be revealed. The truth will be known. There's no way it won't be. And everyone's saying there's nothing wrong with him will be found to be a liar.
Biden is supposed to be America's commander-in-chief, but at what is a very dangerous time for the world, I wouldn't trust him now to order a restaurant meal, let alone a military strike. So why is he still running? Why has nobody told him to stand aside for the good of the party and country, as incumbent Democrat Presidents Lyndon Johnson did in 1968 and Harry Truman did in 1953. If they have, then why hasn't he listened to them? We're told he still believes he is the only person who can beat Donald Trump because he beat him last time. But as I suspect the world will see when they have their first live TV debate on June 27th, the controversial, now criminally convicted Republican candidate will eat Biden alive on stage, and there will be no Obama there to rescue him. Just as baffling, why do so many high-profile Democrats persist in trying to convince us that Biden still got all of his marbles intact? After I posted my comment about the jaw-droppingly embarrassing Biden-Obama arm grab, two of America's most famous billionaires responded to what I had said. The first was hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, who has been a vocal Democrat supporter and major donor, but now he's likely to vote for Trump, and we talked about that yesterday. Another billionaire, entrepreneur, Dallas Mavericks co-owner and Shark Tank reality TV star Mark Cuban doesn't agree with me. He hit back, and we read this on the air yesterday. You're so consumed with pandering to your Twitter followers, you've lost all objectivity. I'll let you both in on a secret. Both candidates are very, very old. They both are going to have senior moments, misremember, forget things, and have physical frailties. I'll tell you a not-so-secret secret. One is great at sound bites, but also thinks in sound bites. The other is awful at sound bites, but thinks in complete sentences. Voters will decide which we prefer. Of course, the last one is Biden, and that's where Mark Cuban showed his complete and utter delusion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the most delusional things that Mark Cuban has ever said.
Right. Well, thinks in complete sentences.
The instant barrage of replies to Cuban's message said it all. Virtually nobody agreed with him. Many openly mocked him, which is hardly surprising given that even 2/3 of Democrats don't think that Biden should be running again because he's too old. As much as I admire Cuban, he and I both know he would not employ Sleepy Joe to run a bath for him, let alone his businesses. Perhaps the most absurd reaction came from the White House senior deputy press secretary Andrew Bates, who was so enraged by the New York Post report that accurately recounted what happened with Biden and Obama on stage that he ranted on X, fresh off being fact-checked by at least 6 mainstream outlets for lying about POTUS with cheap fakes. Rupert Murdoch's sad little pack, the New York Post, is back to disrespecting its readers and itself once again. The ethical standards could deal with a little unfreezing. I have 2 invitations to Mr. Bates by way of response. First, I have unsuccessfully requested many times that I would like to interview President Biden, just as I previously interviewed numerous U.S. presidents, including Clinton and Carter. Second, the New York Post editorial board would love to give the president the opportunity to put all speculation to bed about his age-related issues with an in-person meeting. If both these invitations are declined, as they are almost entirely of the media, then, as Mark Cuban said, voters can draw their own conclusions and act accordingly.
Yep. And that's the problem. I mean, that's where Mark Cuban was right. People are drawing their own conclusions. You're seeing it. People that vote Democrat are drawing their own conclusions, and they disagree with the assessment by Mark Cuban. Thinks in complete sentences. That's the kind of defense that you've heard. Oh, you can't see it. But he thinks in complete sentences.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but behind the scenes, he's running circles around all of us.
He cannot do one interview where the reporter will cross-examine the statements that he makes.
Right. Not
everyone that he makes. He can't do it. He hasn't done it. He won't do it. He won't do long press conferences.
Right.
Because they know he can't do it. And Mark Cuban is just BSing beyond all BSing.
Well, and now we learn details of the CNN debate coming up on the 27th. It is 90 minutes. 90 minutes that he's going to have to, with what they say, 2 commercial breaks.
Yeah. That's not a lot of commercial breaks.
That's not a lot of commercial breaks in a 90-minute span. You can't convince me that's going to go well for Biden.
And by the way, Piers Morgan is not a Trump fan.
Right.
He's basically warning Democrats, you're going to lose if you do this. And it started, like I said, I believe it started 10 days ago with Morning Joe, and all the liberals watch it in the Beltway, and they went, okay, that's what we need to be doing.
Right.
We need to gaslight big time and say, no, Biden's the most aware guy. And then after he did that, remember the cabinet members came out, oh, no, the problem is we just can't keep up with him. Well, then he should be able to do one stinking press conference, or he should be able to do a interview with a legitimate reporter who will ask tough follow-up questions to all the lies from the border.
Well, as I said last week,
to inflation and everything.
Their defense is he's too busy being mentally competent.
Yeah.
That's their response.
He can't do any interviews because he's too busy being mentally competent.
They want you to buy that.
Well, the public doesn't, as we know.
Not even close.
No.
There are people that want to live in the delusional state. You know the truth. You know it. You know that your disdain for Trump drives it. You know that. And you also know that there's likely no one that could step in this late in the game and beat Trump. It's not a great situation, but it's the situation your party created. It's the situation you voted for if you voted for Biden in the first place.
It's funny when I see Hillary's name being mentioned now.
Yeah.
Because you can't use Newsom because he represents California and the polling numbers are horrible. I don't know what the polling numbers would be for Hillary, though. I don't think anybody's tested that.
That's a huge question mark, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if because as she just walks in as the surrogate, and then any of them, whoever it would be, would have a built-in excuse. Well, we didn't have enough time to get a campaign launched and do the things that you should be doing, so obviously it wasn't. It was doomed to fail. If they were to lose, they can have that built-in excuse. And that's the only way that I see Hillary actually accepting the invitation to step in. Because otherwise, she'd look at it and say, well, that's a loser all day long.
The problem that the left has is normally when attacked by the right on any issue from the board or whatever, they just don't comment on it. Mm-hmm. They just pretend it's not happening and don't get into the specifics of it. The problem they have here is that when they talk about the unedited video, the right is, here's the video right here.
Right.
They all posted what Karine Jean-Pierre is saying. Mm-hmm. They're not afraid of the response from the White House.
No.
That's the problem that the White House has, is the media, when they come out with these strong, well, it's cheap fake, deep fake, whatever. It's like, well, let's look at the video.
Yeah.
Let's look at the video. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. What did you have to say? We'll proudly promote. The right is not hiding at all what the Democrats and the White House response is to all of this.
Right. And that's the tell right there.
Which means they know they have the win.
Exactly.
We've covered politics long enough.
They're going out of the way, and they're also going out of the way, you heard it. Karine Jean-Pierre is trying to round up the liberal media support. Hey, you guys, come on, get on the whole cheap fake thing. Get on the whole cheap fake bandwagon. Help us out here. The fact of the matter, and you're not making it any better, because the only thing, in fact, you're doing is you're bringing it to the attention of people who weren't paying close attention to it now. And they're going to look at it and go, oh, that doesn't look good. I don't care which video you're talking about. Normandy, the Juneteenth celebration, the fundraiser. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. None of it looks good. Looking off, almost wandering off the stage with other international leaders as I don't know, was he talking to the guy with a parachute? What was he doing? That's the question. Why was he doing that? There's no way to make that look good. There isn't. You can't depict it as something it's not. And the reason is because many of us have seen it ourselves in our loved ones.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So that would be the question if he decides, if he drops out, who will it be? Now, I will, coming up here in a little bit, one columnist who says, again, Joe Biden always exceeds in these moments. Mm-hmm. He always has exceeded expectations. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that coming up. The Republicans and the RNC really going after now and supporting tariffs. You saw the head of, or not one of the spokespeople for the RNC.
Yeah.
That if you say tariffs or taxes, you're that comes from the Chinese Communist Party, which of course is ridiculous.
Right.
Tariffs are a tax.
Well, that's why you want to replace the income tax with the tariff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know who pays it, and so there's now, and you see it. You see it now as John Carney on Breitbart. You know, constantly saying, you know, tariffs aren't as bad as people make them sound. When you raise the cost of doing business, it always affects the economy one way or another.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. Talking about cheap fakes, as the White House is calling it, even deep fakes that they had to back off on. Deep fakes is artificial intelligence that would be used to mimic Biden, and that's not happening. Cheap fakes. Have they been edited? Not the stuff I've seen.
No.
But when we talk about the president right now and what the mainstream media is trying to do to prop him up, literally, we come to Miranda Devine. Miranda Devine, who really broke the story for the New York Post on the laptop.
Yeah, right.
And I will say this. The administration is going to use any opportunity they can to attack the New York Post because they were just, let's put it this way, they were eviscerated when it came out that the laptop was real.
Yeah.
I mean, the White House was just pounded on day in and day out. So they're looking, because the New York Post was completely right. The New York Post was 100% right on the whole laptop story. And the 51 intelligence leaders, the rest of the mainstream media, the administration, the Biden, they all were telling lies on Joe Scarborough.
Yep.
I have to throw his name in because he's the one that's got this latest thing going that the Biden is better than forget about Trump. Biden's better than any of the Republican speakers that I've talked to.
Yeah.
He's much more up on what's going on. No, he's not. But as she says here, Republicans should not fall into the trap of emphasizing Biden's increasing befuddlement, as viral as such moments are to the world, astonished that America now represents the end stages of Soviet decrepitude. The strategy risks engendering sympathy for a man who deserves none and lets him off the hook for all the damage he has wrought to this country. It also plays into Biden's superpower being underestimated. He might act like a doddering incompetent, looking like a wax effigy and walk like a robot, but the president has the uncanny ability to exceed all expectations when it counts politically. We're told he plans to hole up in Camp David for the best part of a week before the upcoming presidential debate. Whatever magic tricks are involved in his debate prep, you know it will be a different Joe Biden at the podium on June 27th than the one we've seen wandering around Europe like a defective Roomba. He keeps passing the test set for him by doubters in his party who are worried that most voters think he's too old, a polite euphemism for his cognitive fitness more than a judgment on his numerical age of 81, which is not much more than Donald Trump, who just turned 78, but has seemingly boundless energy. For instance, Biden's weird performance at the State of the Union in March after another extended recharge at Camp David was praised by his media boosters as feisty, energetic, and passionate. Biden projects a vision of strength, was typical from CNN. He projected vigor and forcefulness. His voice was great. He was quick off the mark. One particularly barf-worthy line hailed the comeback of the scrappy, twinkle-eyed, blue-collar street politician. Okay. End of quote.
Yeah. All right.
These media accounts were at odds with what any normal person saw of Biden's shouty, angry, oddly high-octane performance. But Biden benefited from low expectations, which had pummeled deeper into the basement after special counsel Robert Hur decided not to charge him with mishandling classified documents because he is cognitively unfit to stand trial, or as Hur diplomatically put it, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. All Biden has to do for applause at the debate is not fall off the stage. And so, again, now the question is, did the State of the Union help him in the polls? No, not really.
No, it did not.
So there you go. She's just saying, be warned. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. And, I think the biggest problem will be the moderators and how much control the moderators have since they can shut off the microphones.
Well, it will be a case now of them protecting him. I mean, technically, it's the liberal media has always been protecting liberal presidents or candidates, but on a debate stage. But it's now going to be about protecting and helping to make sure that there's not one of these moments or a number of these moments created during their broadcast. Because you can get up there for Biden could get up there for a good 20, 30, maybe even 45 minutes. It's going to be twice that long. It's going to be 90 minutes. And given what's happened in the last couple of weeks alone, there's something clearly going on. It is a clear decline over the last 2 to 3 weeks. And there's no hope that that's going to get any better by this debate. It's just not going to happen. They can pump him full of whatever it is. Super coffee.
Works for me.
They can get, whatever it is that they're going to, jack him up on. But the problem is the decline is going to override any of that. In fact, has the potential of making the situation actually worse.
The ones that really, because the video clips that got to me were the freeze during the Juneteenth festival.
Yeah.
I mean, that was such a long length of time.
Yeah.
That was, you looked at that and went, boy, can I relate, to that from relatives that have had dementia, or something, whatever, as they get older, whatever cognitive problems he is having, and the one where he slurred through the entire sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, you had no idea what he was saying. And everybody's cheering. That was the thing. He was saying something. It's like, I have no idea what he said. And it wasn't a word. It was an entire sentence. It was, yeah. And then it's okay,
Right.
whatever. But it was a number of words. He didn't do that a few years back. If you want to understand the cognitive decline in the president without being partisan about it, go back and look at when he did the primary debates back in 2020 and compare them to now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you can see just physically, you can see it in his face. And people go, well, he's just older. No, his cognitive abilities are a lot less.
Yep.
And then you and I both remember the debate with Paul Ryan where he beat Paul Ryan. That's a completely different human being.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, light years from where we're at now.
Then and I understand it's the same human being. I mean, but it's so drastic. The decline in his cognitive state is so drastic over that time. So if you want to do it on your own research, that's what you look at, and that's where and I know you and I did it one day. We looked and went, "Oh my God, did you see him from even 2020? We're like a completely different person."
Yeah.
And so there's that problem. Now, what are they going to do? Who knows? I don't know. If he completely bombs, who knows? And I do think that there are many liberals that hope that he does bomb so somebody else gets in there, because the polls show what the Democrats themselves think. The Democrats don't believe he should run. And if the Democrats say it, it's not because of his age, it's because of his cognitive ability.
Exactly.
That's what it is. They don't believe that he has what it takes. And it's so obvious. And that's why the denying from the Democrats and the media is just, I mean, it's expected. I expect it at this point now, but it's almost humorous. So I've said that's where the laughing comes in. I don't laugh at somebody who has dementia or has serious cognitive problems because I've been through it. I've been through it with my own mom. And it's not fun. But it is hilarious the way that they attempt to defend him, that there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And continue to do that, especially over the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Where, no, he's just as energetic. Then why won't you let him do an interview where he is cross-examined?
Right. Exactly.
Where he isn't allowed just to throw out nonsense and they go to the next question because a follow-up isn't allowed. Why doesn't he do a number of press conferences with the media and take follow-ups like Trump used to do?
Right.
Why? Because they know he can't do it. We all know it. Every Democrat listening knows it. We all know it.
Yep. And it's, again, it's something that I think Piers Morgan is right to a certain degree. Was it the moment that Obama took his hand? I think for many it was actually before that. But I think but it really was this past weekend at the fundraiser, the culmination of all of it. It's not just one moment. And these aren't cheap fakes or deep fakes. It's very real. And the security of a nation now has to be the top consideration in terms of the whole political thing. And quite frankly, his family members should be ashamed. There should be great consideration for his care by them. And it's not going to change. Just not who they are. And we'll see what happens, but I don't know what you do. I don't know what kind of excuse you make. What happens here in 9 days, the day of the event, and he's just not ready. He's not prepared, and they know he can't go on a stage. You let him go on anyway? You better come up with something good. The excuse is going to be the final gavel drop on all of this. If you say, sorry, he's not going to make it to the debate tonight, if that happens, then no one can have any question. I mean, you shouldn't have any by now anyway.
The polls show most Democrats don't. The majority of Democrats don't want him to run.
Right, exactly.
Why don't they want him to run?
Because
Is it because
they know.
Is it because they disagree with him on the issues?
Nope.
I don't believe so.
It's not even just his age. It's his age and his cognitive decline.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. By the way, speaking of Obama, I frankly watch sports mostly because people feel turned off by political discourse.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
Former President, let me read this in the way it should be read, all right?
Okay.
Former President Barack Obama despairs at the state of political discourse in 2024, telling some 80 digital content creators, we live in a cynical time. But he finds solace in watching sports instead.
Mm-hmm.
The Hill reports Obama made his disengagement public at a glittering Biden campaign fundraiser with the president on Saturday, telling a select group of TikTok and Instagram creators he understands the challenge influencers face avoiding politics in their work.
Uh-huh.
We live in cynical times. What an idiot he is. I swear to God.
We don't live in cynical times.
What a con job he pulled the American people. We live in a cynical time. Let's face it. I think a lot of people who watch you, listen to you, who are fans of you, a lot of times they feel turned off by the political discourse. I get it. You know, I frankly watch sports mostly because it feels like everything is slash and burn. No, you watch sports because you can't argue the idiocy of liberalism and your cocktail socialism. Boy, I haven't called him that in a while.
Yeah,
a cocktail socialist, have I?
Right, yeah.
And your cocktail socialism that you grew up with.
Yeah.
And that you attempted to promote before you decided, I become president. Now I'm going to cash in big time. You know, just America, sometimes America, the whole Obama thing showed what idiots Americans are.
Yep.
Obama didn't do anything. And all the adoration towards him. Remember that? Remember, wasn't Potsy. Remember, was
well,
it was can't think of his
Ron
name.
Howard.
Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ron Howard. You had Ron Howard's dad. You had the Fonz.
The Fonz.
My gosh. Tom Hanks.
Yep. And the only reason that they could think of voting for him was what?
Because it was time that we had a black president.
Yep. Nothing on the issue. Nothing.
They never, in fact, talked about the individual himself.
Nope.
It was about his skin color. And they'd go on for, in the case of Tom Hanks, it was almost 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Remember how long that was?
It's almost a 10-minute endorsement. Hey, could you mention his qualifications? It was all about skin color.
That was the perfect example of what 98-year-old John has always said. That's what Obama was to this country. Americans want to be BS.
Yeah.
That's what that was about.
Yep. No, I mean, that's really where it landed. And at the end of it, the people that voted for him, many of them were saying, well, he didn't really do anything for us.
Well, remember, everything we see with the radical transgender movement started where?
With Obama.
Obama created it. Obama started it.
Yep.
Where did the hate cop come from and defund the police? Who got that going? Obama.
Right. It's a cop-out. Well, I just mostly watch sports.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a former president who is, as far as we know, in good health. And you don't care about the country's biggest issues?
Yeah. I watch sports.
Wow. Way to care, dude.
Well, that's why I say, I mean, it gives a complete indication of the fact that he was never anything. He
never cared.
He never cared. Remember,
he wanted to be the rock star. He didn't like the job.
Remember, Chris
Matthews.
Chris Matthews said it.
He didn't like the job.
Yeah, he didn't like the gig. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He just wants.
Chris Matthews' leg was still tingling when he said it too.
Yes, you're right. I can't remember if that was that before or after that what's his name? Evan
Thomas.
Evan Thomas.
Yeah.
Said he's godlike.
Yeah, he hovers.
Said he hovers. He's godlike.
Yeah.
Sort of God.
Yeah.
Like.
Wow. I can't remember. I think Evan Thomas said it before. I could be wrong.
That's the example of Americans wanting to be BS right there.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight to one of our great radio station affiliates. Oh, by the way, the most obvious not deep fake, well, could be a deep fake, but at least cheap fake.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a deep fake and a cheap fake? Deep fake would be AI.
Right.
You know, putting together something of Biden that wasn't Biden. Cheap fake is not showing the video in its entire context or altering it in some way with zooming in on it or doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest cheap fake and possibly deep fake over the weekend was Schumer cooking the burgers.
That was a gross fake.
And the best meme of yesterday shows the cheese on top of the burger.
Mm-hmm. And
the burger obviously is, I mean, it's absolutely raw. I mean, it's not that and they zoomed in on it just on the there, and it says, just a quote above it, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
It's perfect. Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great,
funny stuff.
Great caption for that picture.
All right. So what are the Republicans promoting now? The Republicans are promoting, for example, the as we know, the tip, mm-hmm. the no tax on tips. And we talked about the challenges of doing something like that. Plus the people that how that may change business in order not to pay taxes.
Yeah. Right.
You know, how that might change a lot of workplaces
mm-hmm.
Out there, or the jobs that people wish to present. And, you know, what would happen if the courts got involved in it. The other thing is the whole tariff thing that Trump has brought up again. This yesterday, here it is, with less than 5 months to go, this is from Bloomberg, with less than 5 months to go before the U.S. presidential election, the debates about higher tariffs and their inflationary effects on the economy are starting to heat up. If elected again, Donald Trump has pledged to enact a 10% across-the-board tariff on imports that he says will raise billions of dollars in revenue to pay for more tax cuts. But mainstream economists say such a plan, plus a 60% levy on Chinese imports, would amount to a tax increase for American households. Here we go. Not true, says the Republican National Committee, according to reporting Monday from Bloomberg's Nancy Cook in Washington. RNC spokesperson Anna Kelly said, quote, "The notion that tariffs are a tax on U.S. consumers is a lie pushed by outsourcers and the Chinese Communist Party," end of quote.
Wow.
The National Taxpayers Union, that's been around for decades, decades.
Right.
And what do they want? An accountability for taxes and lower taxes. They said, at a time when the high cost of living is the most important financial issue for American families, it is irresponsible for either party to defend tariffs that increase the cost of imported and domestic goods. But according to a spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, the notion that tariffs are a tax on U.S. consumers is a lie pushed by outsourcers and the Chinese Communist Party. That is inaccurate. According to the United States federal government's comprehensive analysis of Section 301 tariffs, their cost has been almost entirely borne by American consumers. Quote, Chinese exporters have largely maintained the same prices, and U.S. importers have absorbed the costs of the tariffs through a combination of less favorable margins for sellers and higher prices for consumers or downstream buyers. To reiterate, this statement is not from the Chinese Communist Party, but from the United States International Trade Commission's analysis prepared in response to a request from Congress. Bizarrely, by alleging the tariffs are not paid by Americans, the RNC finds itself in the position of defending the Biden administration's recent extension of Section 301 tariffs that had been scheduled to expire. The Democratic administration also imposed new Section 301 tariffs on medical goods used by American healthcare providers and steel used by American manufacturers and other products. On this date, this is yesterday, a couple days ago, in 1930, President Herbert Hoover signed the infamous Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act into law, making the Great Depression worse. The U.S. Senate website describes the Smoot-Hawley tariff as one of the most catastrophic acts in congressional history. We certainly do not want to repeat that mistake. That's from the National Taxpayers Union. If you want more analysis on the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, then just go to the movie. Oh, I can't think of it. The movie, the kid taking the day off from school.
Ferris Bueller Day Off.
Ferris Bueller Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, yeah.
Yes, just go there and it's one of the greatest.
Bueller.
It's one of the greatest lines ever.
Bueller.
And the Smoot-Hawley tariffs did not work, and everybody's falling asleep.
Yeah.
In there.
Ben Stein.
Yeah, Ben Stein. What a great role.
Right.
I mean, and he was just supposed to narrate it. He wasn't supposed to, he didn't think he was going to be, and they said, no, you got to do that. You have to make it sound as boring as possible.
Oh, I had a American history teacher, Mr. Vaughn. Quite frankly, was in that respect. He was, I'm sure, a good man. I didn't know him that well. He was just my teacher. But you talk about the monotone and it was the first class. It was class number 1 for me. Oh, it was brutal trying to stay awake. Oh, my gosh. I think that's about the time I discovered caffeine. I was 15, 16 years old. Man, I'm going to have something. Bueller. And these tariffs are not, look, every time we've gone into tariff territory, there is going to be a massive response in the economy. Steel tariffs, with both the Bush and the Trump steel tariffs, you saw that manufacturers were affected. They were, in the case of the Bush steel tariffs, having to set up shop somewhere else outside the U.S. for manufacturing so they could control their costs. You know, this idea that it's not passed along to the consumer, of course it is. You say, you know, okay, part of it is absorbed. Well, they pass it along to the point that the market will bear. Mm-hmm. This is what the steel producers or the manufacturers knew, not the steel producers, but the manufacturers who use steel knew. This is going to cost us this much per unit. We can't pass that on to the consumer because the market won't bear that cost, that new higher cost. We're going to have to do something. And the answer was, we're going to have to control our costs by moving our manufacturing out of the U.S. And there's no way you can change that. And then the domestic producers, because the other part of it is that all of our trade partners are going to reciprocate. So all of our domestic producers are going to feel that effect. And when business slows down for them, well, then again, domestically, they can, for the domestic buyer market, all of us here, if it's a domestic producer, they can raise their costs or their prices, rather, all the way to just below the tariff price, the import price, and still be competitive, which means that prices go up across the board. And inevitably, something has to be done. And then it's another political decision. Okay, we got to do away with these tariffs. The exception to our concerns with tariffs, and there's still a concern on imposing tariffs on China, we have to do that with everybody else at our side. All of the other Western countries have to be there with us and have to be loyal and hard fast on the decision to tell China, we're going to carve you out. You're going to have few customers and you don't produce oil. This isn't going to be good for you if you don't get your intellectual property rights issues resolved quickly.
Well, you know, this is something that I know John Carney at Breitbart's been talking about, because the left has responded by saying, if you do tariffs, it's inflationary, and his response has been, it wasn't during the Trump administration. That's because the tariffs were relatively isolated to certain industries. What you did see, and again, we have never said that they are strictly inflationary. We have said that when you raise the cost of doing business, they can be inflationary. They can also slow production down, which means job losses for people that the tariffs don't protect. And that's what you saw in the steel industry. We've laid it out. Wall Street Journal did their analysis of the Trump tariffs, did the analysis of the Biden tariffs, did the analysis way back when of the George W. Bush steel tariffs that they reversed. What was it, year and a half? Maybe it was 8 months. Was it 8-9 months?
Yeah, I think then. Yeah, I think it was a partial reversal and then full reversal eventually. Yeah,
and you know, because when you raise the cost of doing business, and that's why, and I'm going to be blunt here to show you that we're fair. The RNC shouldn't put out a stupid spokesperson who lies about the impact of tariffs. Tariffs are a tax. That's why Trump is saying we want to get rid of the income tax and put on tariffs.
Right.
Because you raise the revenue, and as the United States government has analyzed with Chinese exporters, they maintain the same prices, the exporters, but the importer, the U.S. importer who gets the bill for it. The importers have absorbed the cost of the tariffs through a combination of less favorable margins for sellers, which of course is going to happen because you're in competition, and higher prices for consumers and downstream buyers. So tariffs, like anything, it's just like the minimum wage. If you raise the minimum wage by a nickel, it's going to have an impact, but not that much of an impact. When you had very low inflation of 1%. If you put tariffs on just a few businesses, you're not going to see massive inflation.
Right.
When you have massive inflation, and then you say, well, we're not just going to have isolated tariffs, we're going to do it across the board, 10% for everything that comes into the country and 60% from China. Odds are, in the environment that we're in right now, that's when you're going to see, because of inflation, manufacturers have cut back so much.
Yeah.
You know, they've trimmed the margins as far as they can trim the margins. They're going to raise prices on you, and there will be job losses because of it, as there were with the steel tariffs. But I think the difference with the Republican Party now, Trump was using tariffs before and marketing them as something that was retaliatory because Europe wasn't treating us right, Canada wasn't treating us right, Mexico wasn't treating us right, and China wasn't treating us right.
Right.
Now it's become, this is just policy to raise taxes. The goal of a government should be always to raise taxes that least disturb the economy.
Right.
And Republicans don't lie. If you're going to say we're going to put tariffs on to punish China and there's going to be a cost to it, be honest with the American people. But don't be Democrats. Don't say that we're going to raise the cost of doing business and nobody will be affected by it, because that's an outright lie. If you're going to call them on minimum wage, if you're going to call the Biden administration for putting tariffs out, you can't sit there and say, well, we do it differently because we're Republicans, and if Republicans raise the cost of doing business, only Democrats raising the cost of business results in, negative aspects to the economy. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Reading this headline, Gen Z musician, it's becoming rebellious for young people to be right-wing. You and I've often said that when you talk about, because we've always found it interesting that the resistance is the people that agree with government control and government censoring.
Right.
That the resistance now backs what the government is telling them, and the government attempting to censor.
Yeah.
That's what the resistance are, people that are completely involved.
They're resisting liberty is what
They're resisting liberty. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty humorous.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi, welcome to a Tuesday.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't forget to wear pants. We're the station that cares.
Well, you may not want to. It's going to be hot across
Don't wear pants.
in areas of the nation today.
Don't forget to take your pants off. We're the station that cares.
That's right. I know that some places in the Northeast are going to be in the 90s.
Yeah. You guys stay indoors. Don't go outside at all.
Heat advisory for New York.
Oh.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. You notice that, too, I think we talked about it off the air. Maybe we mentioned it on the air. And I'm really having an issue with the whole now ramped up clickbaiting, but also the fear mongering by the leftist media as we go into summer on heat. It's summer. Now, I know we're kind of tempered because we're in Texas. We like the heat. When we see pictures of Arizona, that we see like someone posting that it's 115 in Arizona, we get jealous.
Well, maybe a tad of an exaggeration there.
No. They're our brethren. In the battle against the heat, we love it. We absorb it. It's what creates our superpower. The sun. This is, watching them go sometimes just bat soup over the edge. We don't know when the heat's going to end.
I do.
I know. Winter.
For us,
February.
the latter part of September will start cooling down. It can be hot all the way to mid-September, and then it'll start cooling down.
There are days when there are years when Christmas Day we're sitting down to dinner, and I'm turning the AC on because it's quite frankly it gets above 78. That air conditioner's going on. It's expected from the media, but it's like it's going to be their new fear mongering. They can't. What's interesting is they're not going after Trump like they used to. They're still doing it. It's not to the same degree. Now it's back to the climate change thing. Well, the heat is so bad. And it could wreak havoc on the grid.
That's
why is
man-made.
that? Why is that?
Because men are idiots.
We have answers. We know. Went by a...
By the way, when I said men, I meant man, not just men. Women, too, are idiots. I want to make it clear. When it comes to our analysis of the grid and what we've agreed to and who we've voted into office.
That's right.
Sorry, we're idiots.
No, it's exactly what we asked for. If there's a problem with the grid,
it's what we voted for.
It's a choice.
That's what America voted for.
And this whole idea, we all have to conserve. We all have to come together. Nope. I'm keeping mine on 62. Can you imagine 62?
Well,
It'd be freezing.
I'm already up to 77 during the day because I spend a lot of time outside, just working around the house and doing everything. If you come in the house and it's 72 degrees and you've been out there in 96, 97, 98, and in a couple of weeks probably 102, 103, it's too cold. It's like, it's just too dang cold for me. So I'm at 77 now. Most years, inside the house during the day, it's 78. And then when your air conditioning stays on anyway, and then I have the ceiling fan in my master bedroom that I have it on medium speed, and it blows, even if the house is 78, because I like sleeping in cold temperatures. And all I do is take the ceiling fan, and my air conditioning ducts shoot right above the ceiling fan that pushes the cold air right down on me. So
yeah,
I'm fine to sleep in it. So in my little area, I create the Gary cold zone, but the rest of the house probably be at 77, 78.
I'm keeping it at 70-ish. And
Are you really? I thought you kept it up higher, too.
Oh, no. I never have. No,
you have it at 70?
Oh, easy. When I sleep at night.
Oh, when you sleep. I'm talking about during the day.
No. When I sleep at night, it's even colder. During the day, it's at 70.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. We'd have problems.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know what but during the winter.
I keep blankets around my house.
But when it becomes winter, when it's winter, the temperature goes way down.
Mm-hmm.
It's how my body
use my heater during the winter.
Yeah, it's how my body. It's how my body reacts. My body, I like it at during the winter. If it's 68, I'm happy. I mean, that's the best. And they say the best sleeping temperature is at that particular point.
It actually, I joked about 62 in the winter. It often is 62, 63 degrees in my house because I don't turn the heat on unless it falls below 60.
Yeah,
that's where I keep it.
No, I like it. I'll have it at 68.
I've got to have it cold.
Yeah,
got to have it cold.
Yeah, not that cold.
Yeah, my metabolism just runs way too high. I just, sit around. I'll sweat in my sleep if it were 72, 74 degrees. I'd wake up sweating all the time. Yeah,
speaking of that happens to me once in a great while. I'll wake up. You're so hot. What causes that?
Just where your metabolism is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wake up, it's like, is this just old man stuff? You know what I had a couple days ago?
Menopause, they call it.
I'm going through menopause.
Mm-hmm. It can be hormonal. It can be what you ate. It can be, a number of things, but it fluctuates.
And that's where, I've had it where it's been, 72 and wake up and you're like just boiling and throw the covers off, let the ceiling fan hit you for about 20 minutes. Next thing you know, you're shivering back under the covers again.
Yeah, I sleep with a very thin cover during the summer. Like yesterday, I got down to the one thin cover probably for the first time this year. Because in the afternoon, it's only going to, your house is only going to cool down. I'd love it to cool down to 62 during the summer. It's not going to do that.
Oh, that's a workhorse.
Mm-hmm. And I have the best air conditioning systems you can get. I mean, I paid good money for them for a reason. And I have two. Because of the layout of my house, I have two central units, which actually works because the other side of the house where they watch TV while I'm sleeping and everything else has its own AC unit, and they can keep it wherever they want to, My wife likes it cold as well. It's definitely, and it does vary. If I actually would rather cool down outside. Yesterday morning we had wind, which is we hadn't had in a couple of days, and it was a good breeze. And I was moving a bunch of dirt outside, and I love when you start to break a sweat, and then that breeze is there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's nothing better. Nothing better.
No.
But yeah, this fight over the grid, this stupidity over the grid. If I use more, I pay more. We have plenty of energy, except we want to limit how much energy we're actually going to provide and produce as a nation. Well, that's the choice we've made.
Well, you may pay more, but the cost, under my electricity plan, the more power I use,
the rate goes down.
The rate goes down. It becomes cheaper, and yet they're telling me no, don't use. But when I just redid mine last fall for another 3 years. I think it's 13.3 cents per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, we're somewhere around 12, I think.
Yeah,
somewhere around
there. And so it's like for the three, and that's the total cost. They include everything in there, so which is low compared to California.
Oh, yeah,
but the more you use, like the rate will be higher than that, but they take it on the average. They take it. The 13.3 is based on an average, I think, of 2,000 kilowatts per day, whatever. And a lot of times I'm down near 1,100. I don't use, and it's funny because I do have the pool, but I've got a very energy efficient pool pump, which doesn't really use use a lot. So.
And the rest of my house is like at night. I have these tremendous solar lights now. I mean, they've really come a long way with the outside solar lights. So the entire front of my house is lit. I mean, lit. And my neighbors are always asking me, how do you do it? It's like, okay, you got it. First of all, you have to have enough of them. You also have to have the right angle. You know, they have to be in the sun long enough to charge, to stay on all night, and they do. And now, you know, I mean, with LED bulbs and everything else, in fact, when it comes to lighting, I'm not the kind of I don't like a lot of light in my house anyway. But the light that's in my house during the day is almost 100% natural, unless you're in a bathroom or something for a moment. Mm-hmm. And those are LEDs. So I otherwise don't use a lot of electricity. We control. It's not that we're controlling costs. It's just that I don't see a reason to turn a big light on for just me in a room. I actually see pretty well in the dark after doing this for 28 years. Getting dressed in the dark for 28 years. And also I have an issue with my eyes can be very light sensitive, and so when you look at my phone, everyone's like, "My gosh, can you see that?" And so around my house, the only thing I insist on, the only thing I will spend the money on is AC. It's always been that way.
Well, in my house, I have I think I have seven. I have 7 of the light bulbs, 2 in my bedroom, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 outside. You know, 2 in the bedroom that are Wi-Fi LED lights that any color you want to do, you can. And so they basically highlight the walls. And so I have a reading light that I use in my reading room.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't have, let's put it this way, 17 and a half years now in my house. When I went in the house, all the bathroom light fixtures, all the chandeliers, incandescent bulbs, none have blown in 17 and a half years.
Yeah.
That shows you how often I use those lights.
My lamp in my little work area, you know, when I'm doing show prep, that light bulb has been there since I bought the lamp. Years. And because there is as long as it can light, as long as it gives me what I need, I don't see any reason for paying a higher cost otherwise. So incandescent bulbs, in some cases, may be better in terms of lighting, of the job that they do. But the LEDs have come so far that you can pretty much get any tone that you want. I've got the multicolor, Wi-Fi control.
Yeah, those are great.
Whatever you want out of an LED, you can get, and you don't even have to stand up to turn it on or change colors.
And what's impressive is because mine runs. I think most of them run from apps on phones. Mm-hmm. But what I really love about the color LED lights is the number of tones they have for the white light.
Yeah,
it's not even the cut. I mean, the colors are great, but
right.
It's like, wow, look at all the different colors I have. And then I got a reading light when I put in when I got rid of my office and decided I'm going to make this a reading music room instead. Yeah. And I bought a lamp, and it has it's got sunlight, it's got, bright light, it's got, volume. You can have 20 different tones of white light or offshoot of white light,
right,
which is just awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and in the summer, we don't do a lot of baking in the main oven. We have a smaller oven, and we also have a gas cooktop. And that's where the gas cooktop is where most of our cooking is done. So we actually have a pretty efficient and low energy bill. It's actually not that bad for as cold as we keep it in our house.
When I see, just looking at the long-range forecast for us around here, it's normal.
Yeah, maybe some rain from that tropical thing coming up.
But. And I was looking at Buffalo. They had Buffalo 94, 95 a couple of days ago. Now they say 88 tomorrow. So they're not going to be as warm as initially said, but there's going to be some hot places on the East Coast over the next couple of days. But when I get in there, what's going to be when I get into Buffalo? Okay, it's going to be in the 80s. Seemed like a spring day for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I've already heard it. This is, I saw one headline yesterday, the warmest that it's been in decades. Oh, so it's been this hot before. What's the big deal?
Exactly. Since they, and I like the one, in fact, my dad and I were talking about it, and there was one article I showed him. I said, since they've been keeping records of this in the early 40s. I thought, oh, I think you and I touched on that, too, a week or two ago. You know, it's like, that's a blip in terms of the history of the Earth.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Where it goes into the billions?
Yeah, exactly. You know, since the 1940s, not even the 1840s.
Well, I was thinking I was driving down the road the other day that a couple of billion years ago, this was all molten rock.
Exactly.
I'm driving.
Hey, you know how the Great Lakes were formed?
Yes.
Yeah, think about it.
Yes.
Warming.
And not a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
Well, for us, but in relation to the age of the Earth, no. Because what was it, 10, 12,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nothing. That's a blip.
Right.
866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so you had mentioned the Great Lakes. 20,000 years ago is when the climate started warming again after the Ice Age. And this is interesting because you just go, wow, wasn't that long ago? Just 3,000 years ago, the Great Lakes reached their present shapes and sizes.
Wow.
Yeah, so like, whoa. Now, 3,000 years is an eternity for us humanoids, but
it is.
When we start looking at temperatures, well, this goes back 70 years. It's like, well, that really doesn't give you an indication about the biosphere that we live in.
No.
Does it?
It doesn't.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just speaking of the grid here, I just saw I printed this article out and didn't even realize that it related to what you were talking about. We were just talking about, the temperatures and the problems that the grid's going to have. Mm-hmm. National Review, Mario Loyola, our coming energy famine, economic challenge, and Biden's hostility to fossil fuels are setting up an electricity crisis. Most Americans, and this is something that you and I have talked about a lot, most Americans are unaware of a grave danger looming on the horizon, a historic and entirely self-inflicted energy scarcity crisis.
Yep.
The transition from fossil fuels presupposes that clean energy substitutes will be ready when needed. But while the war on fossil fuels is making real gains, at least in the electricity sector, the effort to deploy renewable substitutes is failing in a catastrophic way. Add soaring demand, and America is facing the worst energy shortfall in its history. The nation grid regulators are already sounding the alarm, and they go through talking to all the different people stating it, and still nothing going on. States in the Midwest are likely to be among the hardest hit. In a February report, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, MISO, they're called, a high-voltage transmission system that provides power for 15 states in the central U.S., warned of urgent and complex challenges to electric system reliability, citing a hyper-complex risk environment. Wow. NERC, which oversees electricity supply across North America, expects MISO, the Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator, expects MISO to face a staggering capacity shortfall of 4.7 gigawatts, equivalent to about 5 average nuclear power plants by 2028. And it's completely self-inflicted. Completely. We could have cheap electricity. We could have cheaper gas, natural gas and gasoline and oil. Yep. We could have cheaper goods and services because the oil going into them would be cheaper. Yep. We could flood the market. We choose not to. We choose to commit, as you and I have stated before, this is not hyperbole. This is what the people in charge are saying.
Yep.
We're facing a threat to our economic, energy, security, and we are imperiling our national security by doing this. I don't know why the United States and so many voters have a suicidal complex when it comes to the success of the United States. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, except they're completely ignorance, and ignorance is bliss. Therefore, they walk around with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I don't get it. Look, the game, the political game, the intent has been control all along. You control the largest chunks of the economy, then you're able to control everything. You control healthcare, huge chunk of the economy, energy, massive chunk of the economy, and not just a huge chunk of the economy, but also the manufacturing base. So if you think about it, we've talked about it, that manufacturers they're drawn to areas where there is cheap energy, cheap labor. Well, we have efficient labor. We're very productive as a workforce here in the States, and we have a lot of cheap energy available to us. We choose not to get it. So you go in, and if you're wanting to gain control of these sectors, the healthcare sector and the energy sector, and they've been very clear, the Democrats have been talking about this for a while, they would love to nationalize energy. Well, what you have to do first is you have to break the backs of the private sector who controls it now. They tried this with health care, with Obamacare. Doesn't mean they're done. They're just done for now. And once that cools down, they'll make another run at it. And right now, they're making clearly a run through regulations at the energy sector. You break the backs of all the private sector companies, and then eventually you're the one left standing because you make all the rules. And you can borrow money to no end. Gary, did you know you can borrow money to no end?
Well, actually, that's not true.
It isn't?
No.
I just heard it from a reliable source, and her name is Corinne Jumpy.
Well, she was cheap faking you.
Was that a cheap fake?
Yeah, that's the cheap grid fake.
I feel used.
Yeah, you because as we know, we've seen what printing money does.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
We've seen what adequate liquidation. Liquidation. Well, it's almost the same thing, isn't
there
it?
may be a liquidation at some point. We're going out of business.
Now, see,
going out of business.
See, that's the thing that Joe Biden has to understand. When I use the wrong word, it actually fits.
It actually works. We just have to parlay it down to what it's probably coming to, and that is everything must go. Fire sale here in the States. It is a choice, and we choose to, and the brainwashing it has been to no end. They've indoctrinated how many generations on this whole thing? What was the audio cut we played? The Leonard Nimoy thing, and it's been going on for a while, and they have to kind of get into that, fear-mongering kind of, oh, man, it's all going to end. The entire planet's going to end.
Yeah, I have this. Well, let's replay it.
Okay, let's play it. Yeah, no.
This is 1978, just so you know what the experts were telling us back in 1978. Now, for some of you, that might seem a long time ago.
Yeah, not so much for...
But that was actually the year that I started in radio. Yeah. And then I was out 8 months later, and didn't get back till 83, but that was...
Yeah.
And so here's Leonard Nimoy talking about the experts and what the futurists are saying about climate change and where it's bringing us to.
All right.
Are you ready?
Okay.
You ready for global warming? You ready for it here?
Mm.
Well, you're not going to get it.
Advance. The result could be hunger and death on a scale unprecedented in all of history. What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
By the way, they're showing scenes from Buffalo and the blizzard of 77 that I lived through. So that's what you hear now. Let's continue.
Yeah.
In 1977, the worst winter in a century struck the United States. Arctic cold gripped the Midwest for weeks on end. Great blizzards paralyzed cities of the Northeast. One desperate night in Buffalo, 8 people froze to death in marooned cars. Pat Bushnell was on the road that night.
Traffic just absolutely stopped. I was afraid of being stuck in the car all night long with the cold and the wind, running out of gas. And then what? I think that if we had to go through a real bad winter, just like we just went through, I think we'd have to think about moving someplace else.
Move where? The brutal Buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected.
I just love the music behind it. So understand that fear-mongering in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah.
To us, I'll say to me, seems like it was that long ago.
You thought Eric's house was cold. You just wait. Yeah, but we've talked about it before, but this, we got to keep that. You got to bookmark that because we need to keep it, by the way, we need to keep it around, with the whole Earth first, the girls screaming at the trees.
Yes.
By the way, I watched a true crime documentary, and the bad guy, the bank robber, was a supporter of Earth First, they said in the documentary. I just saw this the other day. Back in the day, he was a bank robber in the Northwest.
Earth First.
Earth First. Members of the Eagle Group, Earth First. So we got to bookmark that ad because you and I have talked, or that audio you just had, because you and I have talked about how in our lifetime it has gone back and forth. I remember, apparently I don't remember, There was one. There was one summer. Would have been the early '90s.
I think it would have been 91 or 92 that when I was in Buffalo, I could hardly golf at all that year because there was so much rain and cold weather that the golf courses were unplayable. And I believe, I can't remember if it was 90, it might have been the summer of 91 or 92 is when it was.
Well, and so it would have been right around that time, and I was here in North Texas. I didn't live in the DFW area, a couple hours northwest of here. And I remember my wife and I were exercising one evening outside. We were out for a walk, and we had to stop by the house when we made our rounds. Had to stop by the house and get sweaters because it was below 80 degrees. And it was cooler than normal. We had some kind of cool front that came through during June, which was a total anomaly. But again, people asking, well, could this be the trend? Well, yeah. You have to put it in perspective in terms of how long we've been around, or how long the blue marbles have been around. But we don't do that. The indoctrination has kids thinking, well, the young people that were saying, well, Greta's friends, we don't even know why we're sitting in a classroom. What's the point? The Earth's going to end. They've got them to the point that now they have no idea. They don't really want the left to do anything because they believe, again, net zero is not zero. You're not really doing anything. It's just political. You're not trying to save the planet. They have them running so scared that they don't believe in any solution, which is also a problem politically when they become of age to vote. And I think Greta is either there or just about to be. I think she's already there.
But remember, because 78, I would have been out of college a year, but during all of college, all they talked about was the ice age is coming, the ice age is coming, the ice age is coming. And the ice age never came. But think of it, every single major catastrophic prediction that I have gotten since I started, I'll say since my college days in the mid-'70s, that whether it was ice age or Washington's going to flood. What was it, by 1990? They're going to have gondolas or something. It's going to be like Venice and D.C.
Yeah,
not one has come true.
Right,
not one has come close to coming true. All of them have been gone. When is it that somebody will not be mocked for pointing out, when will the mocking go the other way, that all of the predictions from all the elite scientists and academic institutions in this country were completely 100% wrong? They're catastrophic projections. And when is it okay to say, well, then I doubt what you're saying if everything you've said so far about what's going to happen never did? 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, and this analysis of our grid, I just love this one. Realistically, the only way that America could make up for the shortfall in electrical capacity would be through a massive increase in the number of coal and natural gas power plants. Alas, those are the primary targets of the EPA's new power plant rule published in May. The rule is supposed to force large fossil fuel power plants, chiefly existing coal plants and new natural gas plants, to completely eliminate their emissions of carbon dioxide, which is impossible.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.